In 2018, the Liberals attempted to cut $2.5 million from the Canadian Institute for the Blind's Accessible Book Program, but the disability community fought back. Nonprofits NNLS and CELA now administer the program and provide 3 million Canadians with reading disabilities access to books and resources at no extra cost to them. This year, in the middle of a pandemic, the Liberals plan to cut $4 million from NNLS and CELA that provide Canadians with disabilities access to Braille, audiobooks, and other accessible reading materials. This cut is just wrong, Madam Speaker. Will the minister commit to restoring their funding, yes or no?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for the very important question. We strongly believe that everyone should be able to access information and reading material, and that's why we signed on to the Marrakesh Treaty 4 years ago, and why we have been working closely with all stakeholders, including disability groups and the publishing industry, on an agreed-upon plan to transition the industry to one where books are born accessible. We know that the pandemic has impacted the timeline and the realization of this transition, and we are working with stakeholders to ensure that they are supported and alternate format materials remain available. I am confident, Madam Speaker, that we will find a solution.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey-Owen.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. He didn't answer the question. Many seniors across Canada are like my 98-year-old grandmother living in long-term care homes with limited social and family contact that has been further reduced by the pandemic. Many have visual impairments or are legally blind. They're dependent on much-needed accessible reading materials that are provided through CELA and NNLS organizations. This is even more critical in rural Canada where access and resources are limited. Yet this Liberal government has decided to cut $4 million in essential funding for them. Why? My 98-year-old grandmother and millions of Canadians want to know.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And again, I thank the honourable member for the important question. As I stated prior, we strongly believe that everyone should be able to access information and reading material. I am confident, Madam Speaker, that we will find a solution that keeps us on the path to accessible publishing, and we will continue to work with our partners in the disability community to make sure that we have a barrier-free and accessible Canada. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Chair, can you tell me how much time there is?
Just under 2 minutes.
Okay. Minister, if you'll just allow me to, I would really appreciate the opportunity, since I was expecting on subs and mains today, and what I'm going to ask you about is coming down the pipe in 2 weeks, so I just would really appreciate if you'd allow me to ask you about CELA and NNLS. Would you grant me that?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, as you know, 3 million Canadians are provided accessible learning material from these national nonprofits, CELA and NNLS, with to folks who have print and visual impairments like blindness, cerebral palsy, and the like. And I first learned about this program in my former job at the province, and found that CELA and NNLS actually help provide these resources to rural communities, which have, as you know, have very limited resources, with their libraries being much, much smaller. So when they approached me that your government's planning to fund, phase out, this sort of very small amount of money, which is $4 million of their funding from you over the next 4 years, I was very, very concerned, and I'm getting a lot of MPs telling me that they're getting complaints from their constituents about this. So I just would ask that you really consider in the next 2 weeks ensuring that this funding does not get cut, and I would love for you to respond, and it'd be great if you would confirm that you would keep this funding, but. Yeah, could you let me know if the committee know if you're planning to
yes,
cut this?
Thank you. Yeah, so the bottom line is we are not going to let these organizations flounder because of COVID. We have worked very hard as a government on accessible publishing, started 4 years ago with the Marrakesh Treaty. We put in place this working group with the publishing industry and NNLS and CELA, and everybody was going to work together with the common goal of making publishing accessible by creating books accessible at birth. So we wouldn't need organizations to convert these books into accessible format. So we all agreed on a work plan, and CELA and NNLS were at the table. And in the fall economic statement, we announced kind of the next 3 years in this transition. But it has become, and we've been working with these organizations, I can assure you, I'm meeting with them on Monday. We are not going to let people not have access to books. I wish they hadn't publicly raised quite such an alarm, and I have already apologized to them that they felt they had to do that, but they are not going to be. They're going to be fine. Their funding is going to be stable. COVID has changed so many of our timelines around these kinds of journeys that, I'm totally on top of this, and we have conveyed that, and I'm meeting with them on Monday.
Thank you, Ms. Dancho. And